Watch, your weekly source of information and inspiration on marriage, parenting, and Catholic family life. Ako si Manjo Mendoza, ang inyong host, na pansamantalang solo flight ngayon. At Family Watch, we believe that the path to the renewal of society and transformation of the church begins in and through the family by strengthening marriages, empowering parents, and bringing families closer to Christ. We want to encourage parents, even teachers, to think about their mission and the things that matter most. Forming children with character and conscience, faithful to the convictions that we taught them, and guiding our families towards heaven. Alam niyo mga kaibigan, ang una sanang pamagat ng ating episode ay Building Resilient Children. Pero napag-isipan namin ng aking mga co-host na kung hindi resilient ang mga magulang, hindi magiging resilient ang mga anak. Why? Because you cannot give what you don't have. So upang tulungan tayo sa talakayan ngayon, ay nag-imbita tayo ng isang resource person. Isa siyang ama ng pamilya, may 5 siyang anak. Ng kanyang asawa na si Tammy, ang edad ng kanilang mga anak ay mula 6 hanggang 19. Narito siya hindi lamang dahil isa siyang ama at asawa, kundi dahil sa kanyang kaalaman bilang isang adult and adolescent psychotherapist. Isa rin siyang pastoral counselor for various mental health concerns, including concerns of individuals, couples, families, and groups, including victims and perpetrators of abuse. Mayroon siyang doctorate sa pastoral counseling from Loyola University, Maryland. He is a licensed professional counselor and has practiced psychotherapy and counseling in various mental health settings since 1997. He is an associate professor in the School of Psychology and Counseling of Regent University in Virginia, USA. He has also taught in the Department of Pastoral Counseling of Loyola University, Maryland. In 2014, Pope Francis appointed him to the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors, and in 2018 was reappointed for a second term. Alam niyo, ang haba po ng kanyang curriculum vitae at lalagpas po tayo sa 30 minutes kapag binasa natin isa-isa ito. So welcome to Faith Watch, Dr. Gabby Dy-Liacco.
Maraming salamat po, Manjo. I'm very happy to be here.
Salamat. Alam ko sa ngayong pandemya, lahat ng mga mental health professionals ay punong-puno ang schedule. No? So talagang na-appreciate namin na binigyan mo kami ng time dito sa Family Watch. No? Gabby, bago tayo pumunta sa usapan nating resilience, no? Gusto ko sana ikwento, like kanina na pagkwentuhan natin, na may nakita akong litrato mo, I think sa Facebook yon, no? Na nagsiserve ka sa Mass, kasama mo si Pope Francis. Kwento mo naman yan para sa ating audience.
Sige po. Nangyari po yun noong 2015 sa unang pagtipon ng Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors. February 2015. Matapos po ng bisita ni Pope Francis dito sa Pilipinas. Diba ano yun? End of January 2015. So, nung meeting po na yun, yung tinatawag na plenary meetings ng commission, lahat kami pupunta sa Roma, tapos magbi-meeting doon. Doon kami for 1 week. And hindi po namin inaasahan na makikita namin yung Santo Papa kasi nga busy siya. After nung trip niya sa Pilipinas, may bago siyang trip sana na dapat atupagin. And it was the time we were there was the week in between his trips. Pero awa ng Diyos, siguro grasya rin ng Diyos, pinagbigyan kami. So we were allowed to meet him by attending his Mass, yung 7 a.m. Mass po niya sa Casa Santa Marta, sa kapilya doon. And nung nandun kami, syempre dumating kami ng maaga, tapos may security check gano'n kasi medyo may ISIS threat nung panahon na yon sa Vatican. May nagbanta sa Vatican na lumabas pati sa mga ISIS websites. And then tumuloy po kami sa kapilya, no? So doon kami nakaupo ganyan. Maya't maya, wala pang 7 a.m. yun. Lapit na kami ng sacristan, one of the monsignors there. Tapos tinanong kami, do you know how to serve at Mass? Yes, I do. Tapos yung kasama ko, ang tawag ko sa kanya si Lolo Bill. Yun yung kaibigan ko doon dati sa commission. Wala na po siya ngayon. Pero makikita niyo sa picture mamaya na ipapadala ko, siya yung gray hair. You know? Tapos tinanong siya, do you know how to serve at Mass? Yes. Okay, come here. Tapos dinala kami. Okay, ikaw, si Lolo Bill, you bring the, ang dala niya yung chalice yata yung dala niya or yung wine. Ako naman, ang dala ko yung too big for the Pope to... hindi, dala ko yung wine pala, sorry. Tapos yung dala niya yung the kagamitan. Okay. And then afterwards, ako yung tagadala ng tubig, no? Tsaka when the Pope washes his hands, no?
Purificator.
Purificator, yeah. So the water, the holy water, and the purificator. Ayun, yun, ganun na nangyari. Tapos sabi niya, okay, you just, maikli lang naman yung distance. So you come here, when I call you, you come here, you get this, and then you walk to the Pope. At tapos ang sabi niya, don't trip. Don't trip. Okay, I won't trip.
Tapos may after the Mass, you had exchange with the Pope.
Yeah, after the Mass, so it's his custom to greet everyone who leaves the Mass, no? Just like the parish priest. Or the bishop or whoever. He stands at the entrance, people leaving get to spend a few minutes with him and talk to him. So ayun, that's the first time I met him in person and shook hands with him. And then pinakita ko yung pamilya ko, sabi ko we're all praying for him. Ganon. Hindi ko matandaan kung ano pang sinabi ko sa kanya. Basta natawa siya. And then okay, so that was the first time. So I was able to serve at his Mass. Actually twice. That was the first time. The second time was, I think, 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And again we were the offertory pala. Offertory ako nun. And the server was the Monsignor, the liturgist. I don't know what the reason was, but we were called to the offertory. Yeah.
So yung yung situation natin ngayon, yung pandemya, na really limits yung travel mo ngayon sa Rome, no?
Oo, wala, zero travel.
Ang operation ng Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors ay online din.
Yes, online din. And it continues. So kahit yung mga training na binibigay namin, we give training and formation to bishops, priests, and religious, puro online din.
Mm-hmm. Sige, punta muna tayo doon sa topic natin. Baka malibang ako sa kwento mo tungkol sa Pope.
Okay.
Sabi nila, Gabby, ang Pinoy daw ay resilient, no? Dahil sa mga kalamidad, para naging way of life na natin. Tama ba yung description na to? Resilient ba talaga ang Pinoy?
Yes, totoo po yun. Resilient po ang Pinoy. Ang definition po ng resilience, in short, is the ability to bounce back. Na kahit napinsala, magka-suffering, ganyan, nakaka-bounce back, no? Buhay ulit, ganyan. At baka may panibagong buhay pa. And nakakapagtaka yung resilience ng Pinoy. Kasi marami namang ibang bansa na may mga kalamidad katulad natin. Pero hindi sila kasing resilient natin. Paano nalalaman ito? Napansin po nung Yolanda ng mga taga-CNN, taga-NBC, yung mga newscasters na pumunta dito, lalo na itong si Anderson Cooper, na ang Pinoy hindi lamang nakaka-bounce back, kahit napinsala na, kahit namatayan, nakakatawa pa rin, masaya pa rin. No? So nagtataka siya, bakit ganito yung mga taong to? Grabe-grabe na yung pinsala, namatayan na, nawala na't lahat, pero masaya pa rin, at hindi lamang yun, no? Generous pa rin. So ino-offer siya kung ano-ano. They had nothing. No? But they were very solicitous and caring after him.
Galing, ano?
Yeah, galing. And you know what this newscaster noticed is that one difference is because they talk to the people, yung pakikitungo tsaka paniniwala sa Diyos ng Pilipino. Na napakalalim.
Siguro yun nagde-define talaga sa Pinoy, pananampalataya natin.
Oo, pananampalataya natin. At kung kaya't may pag-asa, at kahit gaano ka nahihirapan, meron pa rin joy, no? At nakakapagbigay pa rin.
Gabi, yung isang favorite buzzword ngayon sa parenting, yung grit. Ano kaiba ng resilience at ng grit?
Okay, so ang resilience po is the ability to bounce back. Ang grit po ay endurance. Ngayon ko sa Tagalog, siguro hindi lamang pagtitiis, siguro kombinasyon ng pagtitiis, pasensya, at yung hindi ko pa alam kung paano i-translate.
Di ba, pwede mo sabihin ng English.
Sige po. So yun, ang grit po ay endurance, no? Ngayon, meron pong mga tao na maraming grit, they can endure many things, no? But they are not emotionally resilient. Resilience has to do with very much to do with one's emotional life as well.
Gabby?
Ang grit, parang
yung kaya we lost you for a moment. Okay lang, go ahead.
Sorry. So, yeah, resilience as the ability to bounce back relies a lot on inner motivation and one's life inside the mind and inside the heart, so to speak, emotional life. Kasi it involves moving from a sad or angry state or fearful state into a state where one is able to re-engage other people and re-engage work in life, to re-engage life. And that requires happy emotions, joy, giving, mga ganyan, Ang grit is really more, kumbaga parang bulldozer, yung nadadaanan lahat. Pero, so may mga tao pong mataas sa grit, pero mababa sa resilience. Yun yung mga nakakatiis sila pero hindi masyadong maganda yung outlook sa buhay.
Okay.
Yeah, oo. So, yung mga sobrang stoic siguro, stoic yung parang bato na walang kapuso-puso.
Walang nararamdaman.
Oo.
So, masasabi natin yung resilience at grit, they go together. Talagang mag-partner to.
Talagang mag-partner. Kasi kung ang taong resilient, kailangan may certain amount of grit.
Puntahan natin yung sitwasyon sa mga pamilya ngayon. Kasi ang sinasabi ng mga parenting experts, yung mga maraming bata ngayon, medyo soft. O in English slang, wimpy. Mga wimps. Parang konting hirap lang, nagrereklamo na gano'n. Ano ba yung what stands in the way sa mga magulang na gusto mag-develop anong humahad lang sa pag-develop ng resilience at saka grit sa isang pamilya?
So doon po muna tayo sa grit, Kasi kailangan nga po ng konting grit para magiging resilient ang bata. But that's not enough. And ang grit na tututunan ng bata habang natututo siyang magtiis, to wait for things, to pause, to not give in to their own wants or desires or cravings right away. Malaki pong nakasalalay sa magulang dito kasi ang bata mismo hindi siya nakakapag-isip ng ganun, Hindi kaya ng bata 'yon. Na for example, 5 years old, hindi maiisip ng bata, hindi muna ako kakain ng candy ngayon. Mamaya na lang kasi baka masira yung appetite ko. Children don't think that way. It requires a parent to guide the child. So, yung tinatawag po na delaying gratification. Now, ito pong delaying gratification, hindi lang po pwedeng pagbabawal sa bata na gawin yung gusto niya, tapos pag ginawa niya before the time limit, merong punishment. Hindi gumagana yun. Kailangan po
So what works?
What works is to have something motivating, a reward, a positive motivation tied to the act of delaying, of pagtitiis.
Bakit ganun, Gabby? Di ba nung 60s pa yung experiment ng marshmallow? Tama ba? 60s pa yun?
Yes. 60s
hanggang yun, pinag-uusapan pa rin natin yung delayed gratification. Bakit ganun? Hindi ba nakuha ng mga parents yung mensahe?
Hindi naman po sa gano'n. It also depends kasi on yung kagaya ng sinabi niyo kanina, you cannot give what you do not have. So kung
Oo.
ang parents mismo hindi nila kayang gawin yon, dito rin po papasok yung resilience, yung emotional life or yung EQ. Kasi meron
Oo.
din po akong nakaenkwentro mga magulang na puro grit lang. Yung gano'n, yun yung mga medyo harsh yung pagdidisiplina,
Mm. Mm.
no? Oo.
Oo.
Kasi kailangan din po ng bata is from the parents especially, and especially during the younger ages, is a lot of empathy and understanding, no? Na hindi ibig sabihin ng empathy and understanding ipababayaan mo gumawa ng mali, pababayaan mo lang gumawa ng kahit na anong gusto niya. Ang tawag po doon ay pabaya. Ano? Yung mga ganun. O kaya bilang magulang gagawin mo lahat para sa anak mo kahit kaya
Oo.
na niyang gawin mag-isa,
Oo.
no?
Oo.
Halimbawa, ang 2 years old na kaya na maglakad. Yung iba ayaw palakarin kasi madudumihan daw, no? Or kaya na nila maglaro sa labas, ayaw kasi mangingitim,
Oo.
no?
Oo.
So preventing children from doing things which developmentally they're able to do on their own and they need to do on their own in order to grow not only physically but also grow in self-confidence, pinipigilan ng magulang. Sila nang gumagawa ng lahat, no? Ang batang
Oo.
3 or 4 years old, kaya nang kumain mag-isa, matuto mag-spoon and fork.
Oo.
Marami rin po dyan, 7 years old na, sinusubuan pa.
Nako.
Or
Oo.
pinaghihiwaan pa ng mga, yung
Yeah.
karne. 7, kaya nang gumamit ng knife yun no? Matututo na yun,
Yeah.
kaya niya. Tsaka maingat naman yung bata, no? So, what that shows is a lack of I'll just be frank, no, and direct, a lack of EQ on the part of the parents,
Mm. Mm.
where their concern and the focus of their emotional life and regulation of emotions is focused on themselves because doing those things makes themselves feel better
On
about,
themselves, meaning sa
yes,
parents. It's
as
making the
parents.
parents feel
It's
good.
making
Ganun.
the parents feel good about
Oo.
themselves that
Oo.
I'm doing this for my child, when in fact it's doing harm to the child because the child is not learning how to be a human being on his own or her own.
Oo. Oo.
And that's what the children need. So when the parents are good enough at providing opportunities para dun sa mga anak nila for them to learn how to be human beings
Oo.
on their own ayon sa kakayahan nila sa level of development, kasama doon ang mga physical things like pagkain, ganyan, homework, whatever, mental things, homework,
Yeah.
social things, interacting with others, pati po emotional.
Oo.
Emotional.
Oo.
Now, how do children learn how to regulate their own emotions? No? One thing that happens when people are impulsive is now overwhelmed sila ng passion nila, ng emotion.
Oo.
Ang bata wala pang control sa ganon. They're just learning. And their emotions are really large, no? Kumbaga, sinasabi natin na ang bata napaka-transparent. Pagka malungkot, alam mo. Pagka
Yes.
masaya,
Oo.
alam mo. Pag galit, alam mo. Pag nagtatampo, alam mo. Pag takot, alam mo. Wala pa silang di pa sila natututo gumawa ng maskara. Whereas mga adult, maraming mga maskara yan. Diba? Yung iba, hindi mo makita kung ano yung emotion niya. Parang dead mo.
Oo.
Yung pala, may sama na pala ng loob. Hindi
Oo.
mo
Lalo na ang
So,
Pinoy. Ang galing ng Pinoy magtago ng
opo,
emotions.
lalo na Pinoy, no? Lalo na Pinoy na lalaki. Di ba? Okay. So, or Asians for that matter, lalo na mga Asians. I think we share that quality with our neighbors dito sa Asia. Pero as adults na. Pero habang bata, nandyan lahat. Transparent. Kita mo kaagad, no? What the child needs to learn is how to regulate these large emotions that they're experiencing.
In
How
a way,
to, yes,
ang gusto ko sanang i-interject, in a way, yung filosofiya na maraming magulang na ayaw kong maranasan ng mga anak ko yung hirap namin pinagdaanan.
opo.
It's
Kung
like
mapapansin,
counterproductive yun.
it's very counterproductive. And if you notice, kung susuriin po yung statement na yon, yung kasabihan na yon, o yung sinasabi ng mga gulang na ganyan, no? Kung susuriin natin mabuti, hindi po yun tungkol sa kabutihan ng bata. tungkol po sa issue ng magulang. Na ako naranasan ko to, kaya hindi ko nagustuhan, no? Puro ako.
Parang may nakita rin akong sitwasyon na parang yung mga magulang, dahil they were so deprived nung nagsisimula sila, bata sila, ang gusto nila, parang the children will live out their fantasy na dapat ganito dapat nangyari sa amin. Mararanasan
meron din pong gano'n. Pero hindi naman sa, hindi po masama na magbigay sa mga anak, no? To want to have a good life or a better life for one's children. That in fact is very good. Ang nakikita ko po halimbawa sa aking clinical practice is sumosobra-sobra, hindi na alam na magulang kung saan yung linya, what the limit is. No, kasi may limit din yun eh. Pag excessive, ganun din ang matututunan ng anak, excess. No? Whereas what they need to learn is how to control their desires, their wants, and how to channel these and the accompanying energies into doing things that are really good, that are truly fulfilling, no? For themselves and for others, even within the family, for the parents or for siblings or for, let's say, may kasambahay, how to treat the household help. Hindi lang porke may ginawa na nainis yung bata, dapat sigawan niya, no? Hindi ganun. Yung ganun po, walang control doon sa emotions niya. Na-overwhelm yung kanyang reasoning capacities at that age, no, na kung ano yung kaya niya at ginagawa niya. Now, this has something to do also, it has something very much to do with how what the tinatawag po dito sa psychology is the quality of the attachment or the relationship between the parent and the child. And kung ano yung klaseng attachment style or relationship style ng parent. Meron pong tinatawag na disorganized attachment. Ano ba ito? Kapag disorganized attachment, ibig sabihin, yung parent, nung lumalaki siya, medyo magulo yung buhay, whether it's emotional or physical or dumaan ng hardship. And because of that, hindi sila nagkaroon ng, hindi banayad but walang close and meaningful emotional attachment or relationship sa kanyang mismong, sa sarili niyang magulang. No? And so that parent did not learn how to regulate his or her own emotions in a healthy way. Ito mga passions na to, desires, wants,
disorganized
impulses.
Attachment.
Yun po yung disorganized attachment. Ngayon, pag naging ganon, that manifests physically in the body. No? Pag anxious po tayo, let's say normal anxiety. Lalakad kayo sa kalsada, no? You're going to cross the street, biglang bumusina yung boss. No? So you get anxious kasi may parating pala na boss, no? And then you'll notice pag pinagmasdan niyo yung katawan niyo, your breathing is fast, uminit yung skin, no, lalo sa ulo. Pwedeng nagka-palpitation or nanginginig ka sa galit or sa takot, gano'n, no? So this disorganized attachment, kasi sa gulo ng inner emotional life, that produces it can produce a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, or a lot of anger. Usually all three. At naglalaro ito sa loob ng bata, ng tao habang lumalaki. And these have physical signs and symptoms. And that's very disturbing to a person kasi for a child, alam niyang buhay siya, nandyan siya kasi in contact siya sa katawan niya. Yung bata, wala pa pong tinatawag na abstraction, yung capacity to observe oneself and reflect on one's own life. Wala po yun sa bata developmentally.
Anong age nagkakaroon ng ganung klaseng?
Adolescence. Okay. Nag-uumpisa sa adolescence, pero nire-refine yun. No? So magiging more or less it should be there on the average by around age 25.
25 ba?
Yeah, the capacity begins in adolescence and the average it reaches maturity on the average by age 25. So yung iba, mas maagang nagmamature yung capacity to reason, to observe oneself, reflect on one's life, and make decisions based on that reflection.
Oo.
Pero below adolescence, talagang wala yun. That's not there. So the child completely relies on the parent.
Oo.
Now, if the parent's ability to do that is impaired, or there's something interfering with the parent's own ability to do that, so not the parent's fault, no? But there's
Oo.
something, kagaya ng disorganized attachment or kanyang sariling background na paghihirap that interferes with that, lalabas po yun sa pakikitungo niya sa mga anak niya.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually po, hindi conscious ang magulang dito na ginagawa nila yun. No? Kasi
Oo
sila
naman.
mismo, merong filter, merong blinders dyan sa kanilang sariling ability to reflect on their own lives, to observe what's going on and to reflect on it and make a decision.
Alam mo, sa usapang parenting, ang hirap makipagdebate, no? Because kahit yung parents, kami mga parents, marami kaming blind spots. At parang hindi rin namin matanggap pag kami nagsasabi na ganito ka, hindi mo ba alam, no?
Yeah, hindi
So
nga
it
po.
gets in the way also, di ba?
Yeah, ang approach po sa parents is to accompany them, to really be interested in and listen to their story.
Oo.
Now, the story behind how they parent their children, which is their own life story, no?
Oo.
And as one listens to the story, and is curious about different details of the story, you ask questions, that helps the parent not only tell their story, but as they answer your questions of things you don't understand or parang a gray area, that helps the parent themselves begin to look at their own experience and reflect on it. So
Gabby,
for example,
let's get, go ahead.
So imbis na sasabihin, kasi ikaw ganito ka, kaya nangyayari to. That doesn't work, no? And that doesn't work in counseling at all either. It's more, papakinggan mo with sincere interest. And when there is something that's not clear or hindi klaro, just ask, okay, so yan ang naramdaman mo. And how did that feeling turn into what you did? I don't see the connection. Can you explain it to me? No? And then really listen and be curious and be interested and intrigued, and then begin to empathize also. Yeah, okay, and to understand. I can understand, no? Because given you're feeling that way, and that produced these certain thoughts, and boy, that's really difficult to cope with, etc.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, as you told me, your only outlet at the time was to do this. No, and then the person would say, yeah, that's right, exactly, ganyan. So, well, looking back on it, how do you feel about what you did, or what do you think? No, tas siya mismo na mag-iisip nun. Kasi that way of listening helps the person reflect on their own experience and develop that capacity, which is part of resilience. That capacity to reflect on one's own experience and make decisions so that one is not simply pushed by their own emotional reaction.
Oo.
No?
May isa pang tatanong adversity quotient, another buzzword na lagi ginagamit. That this one would be more related to resilience?
It includes both, resilience and grit. Kasi nga kung walang grit, walang resilience.
So, taking into account yung sitwasyon ng maraming magulang, marami kami magulang ngayon na work from home, tapos ang scenario may online distance learning ang mga bata, no? So napaka-unique ng sitwasyon nitong halos isang taon na nating ginagawa eh.
Yes.
So anong pwede mong iwan na tips for parents na gusto namin maging resilient, gusto namin magkaroon ng grit yung mga bata? Ano ang pwede naming gawin para sa aming mga anak?
Opo. Well, ito po, bibigay po ako ng example, no? Both resilience and grit are very closely related and have something to do with a person overcoming their own internal negative experience, no? Whether that's caused by something outside or something inside. Once there's a bad experience and they internally experience it as bad, okay, there's a need to get beyond that. There's a need for resilience and grit, no? To be able to endure and be able to bounce back. Now, for children, especially younger, but adolescents as well, what helps them learn how to do that is when they're experiencing something bad, what they experience from the parent is understanding and comfort, no? Initially. Why? When the parent is able to help the child calm down that inner experience, what the child learns, maybe not explicitly, but unconsciously, and it sticks, and the studies show this, what the child learns is, okay, even if I have a bad experience, I'm going to be okay. That's what the child learns from the parent when the parent deals with the child in that way. But for example, let's say yung anak, no, a concrete example is nag-online learning, and then ang napansin ko po ngayon is kasi yung mga teachers din, ano, the teachers are nangangapa. So actually I think they're giving too much homework or too much sheet work. Kasi during the day, lahat ng subject may sheet work, tapos lahat due at 5. No, sa school hindi naman ganun yun eh. They do it in class and submit it and that's it.
Yeah.
Pero ito parang, tas yung mga sheet work ngayon, para silang mga quiz lahat, no? Mahaba. But anyway, kasi nangangapa nga. So some reactions of some children which I've heard from parents is parang nagsha-shutdown yung bata, no?
Okay.
At hindi ginagawa or dinidelay up to the last minute. Kasi talagang siguro overwhelmed. Kahit yung mga nasa junior high school, ganun din, yung mga overwhelmed. So it's either they shut down or pinapaspasan, walang pake. Tama, mali yung sagot, basta mabigay ko na para tapos na. Okay. Yeah, so it's the fight or flight, right? Fight, flight, or freeze reaction. Yung tinatawag na pagka na-threaten or naging anxious yung tao. Okay. What's happening there is the child is experiencing an overwhelming inner negative emotion inside in reaction to this real overload, no? Now, if the parent simply scolds the child and says, okay, if you don't do that, ganyan, that might work for a few days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. But after a while, the child will stop responding to that. Why? Because the child hasn't learned how to handle what's going on inside. In fact, what the child has learned is to handle what is going on inside by castigating oneself and really be very self-critical and negative and looking down on oneself. Ang kailangan po is upuan ng magulang yung bata, tanungin, ano ba nangyari? Bakit hindi mo na ginawa, no? And the parent has to exercise a lot of patience, a lot of grit in this case. Kasi especially the adolescents, they won't come out right away and say it.
Gaano kalaki ang effect ng modeling ng parent ng resilience sa
napakalaki, kagaya nitong ehemplo natin, halimbawa natin, yung magulang po na mabilis magalit, magpunish, ganyan, na parang militar, no? Yung mga later on, yung mga anak, mas mataas yung mga relational at saka mental health. Mas malaki ang percentage nilang may relational and mental health issues compared to the parent who sits down and patiently waits for the child to explain. Now, there's a difference in how these two parenting styles, no? How they listen to a child. The first one na parang militar magdisiplina, ganyan, punishment kagad, galit kagad, authoritarian, they listen in order to answer back. What the children need is someone who listens not in order to answer back, but in order to genuinely understand what the child is saying in the child's own language, to be able to help the child develop a strategy, a plan that they can do and accomplish. No? So kailangan talaga pumasok sa mundo ng bata. Ngayon, marami rin pong ibang magulang na sinasabi sa akin, ba't ito naman gagawin yun? Di na ako bata, matanda na ako. Hindi kaya kasi hindi kayo maintindihan ng anak niyo pag hindi niyo ginawa. Ano? Kasi merong iba sumusunod and they experience the benefits. Merong iba, they're not convinced. They keep doing what they're doing. And invariably, so far, baka in the future there'll be an exception, I end up seeing their children again 2, 3, or 4 years later.
Yeah.
With an anxiety disorder, a depressive disorder.
Yan yung mga gusto pa namin pag-usapan, pero syempre loaded yung interview ngayon eh.
Yeah. So mental toughness, no? Itong, I guess this sums it up. Mental toughness sums up the combination of resilience and grit. No? This is the child experiencing something bad, something threatening, but is able to say to oneself, okay, this will pass and I will still be okay. I can overcome this.
Yeah.
Now, how the child does that is if the parent relates to the child in that way. Una-muna, hindi nagwawala yung magulang pagka parang emotionally off or disturbed or galit yung child, ano? So very calmly address the child because it's not about the parent, it's about the child. Yeah. So me as a parent, I think, why will I get angry? Eh, hindi naman tungkol sa akin to, tungkol sa kanya. At kailangan niya tulong ko. So,
then, isa pa yung di ba yung tendency rin ng ibang parents na is-solve na yung problema ng bata?
Ay, wag.
Diba?
Oo, mahirap yun.
Yun sa kalaban din.
Ang natututunan po ng bata, alam mo, yun ang pinakamahirap na pagka may magulang nagdadala ng anak nila sa akin. Tapos yun ang nakasanayan ng bata na laging iba ang nagsosolve ng problema niya. Yun ang for me, that's one of the most challenging clinical scenarios. Because the child comes in, even an adult child already comes in and expects me to do everything for him or her. And that's not how psychotherapy works. So some are able to even to tell their own story, they have a hard time. Nabablanko sila. Tell me about your life. Well, what do you want to know? Well, you start from your earliest memory. Hingi pa ng definition. What's that? Is that something visual? Something No? Yung ganong ka-incapacitated yung adult. Kasi buong buhay niya, lahat ginawa para sa kanya. There's some of, nakakaawa rin, but so far they've been some of the most challenging for me to work with as a psychologist. But all of these tools and techniques are designed so that the person, him or herself, is the one who works on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Not me telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. Kaya hirap na hirap yung mga tao na buong buhay nila, everything was done for them. However, they recognize the value. Those who are open enough recognize something good in being made to work. They like it. Yeah. They begin to feel more confident that they have an effect in their own lives. They can actually do things. Parang yung, yes, I can do this. Yung ganon. Yes, I can. Over time, they experience that. Now, that can cause problems with their own parents, especially when the child is an adult already. Kasi as the person develops that self-confidence, it's a healthy self-esteem. It's not selfishness. They esteem what needs to be esteemed, their own dignity, their own capacities that are gifts from God. Naging assertive na yun yung anak. Hindi sanay ang magulang doon sa assertiveness.
Panibagong conflict na naman,
Oo. So sometimes bigla na lang hindi na pupunta yung pasyente. Minsan naman tatawag sa akin yung magulang, galit. Sinasagot ako ng anak ko. And usually ang sagot ko, ilang taon na po siya? 26, 32, whatever. Sabi ko, ano po sinabi niya? Ganyan. So first, I also empathize with the parent. No, I mean, wow, that must have been a surprise to you, a shock, and you sound very angry. Ganyan. Ano ba sinabi niya? And usually it's something like, hindi, ako nang gagawa. No?
Siya
Ganyan.
nagagawa.
Siya nagagawa. Yeah. So sometimes itong mga sessions na ganyan, sometimes we end up having a few family sessions, and that helps the parents a lot. No? So, but the parents also, yeah, I didn't mean to put down parents earlier. They also have a tough time because, as you and I know, there's no manual for parenting.
Correct.
Yeah, and people go in blind, no?
Oo.
It's really, it's like jumping into the deep ocean and then the cruise ship sails away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the parent ends up doing unconsciously is psychologically the person will just rely on whatever they acquired growing up.
Oh.
Yeah, which are things given to them. So it's not their fault. So the first thing important for parents to realize is whatever they may understand or realize to have been mistakes they have made, to first know that the cause of that is not their fault. They learned that from someone else.
Okay.
The second thing is, and this can be very empowering for some, is but despite these things being caused by something else in their lives before, no? That they have the capacity or potential to do things differently towards the future.
Yeah.
They can learn, they can change. Change is possible, and they can learn to act and make conscious decisions with integrity moving forward. Ano ba yung integrity? Yung kabuuan ng loob na na kasama lahat ng values, no? Oo. That's theirs for the taking. They don't have to look at the past anymore. Only they look at it insofar as it helps them change things now for the future. Yeah. But they don't have to look at the past to blame someone else or to blame themselves. That will get them nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have to look at the past to blame their children either. Some blame the children. That will get them nowhere. Now, all they need to do is, if it's the past, understand how they can make use of it so that it can help them in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And once that's done, and usually that's not a lot, you know, some things, yes.
Yeah.
But then to focus on the present and changing things in the present moving forward. Now, this involves developing a lot of self-awareness, being able to reflect on one's own experience with others, what's going on inside, and then making decisions. Okay, I will do my best to act this way, even if I make mistakes. Of course, I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes. I'm a human being. Even if I make mistakes, I will not stop. I will keep on trying because I know eventually, over time, if I do this more and more and more and more, this will become my habit.
Yeah.
No? At yan, magiging virtue na siya.
Yeah.
Yan.
Thank you for that message of hope. Oo, para sa mga magulang na nawawalan ng pag-asa.
Yeah.
Daming takeaway na binigay si Doc Gabby. And I hope we can invite you again for another topic, Gabby.
Sure, of course. My pleasure.
Yeah. So maraming salamat, Gabby, for the very insightful interview. Ang dami. Sayang, hindi ako nakapag-notes. Pero di bale, pag up ng podcast na to, I will take down notes. So for our final takeaway, we read from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans chapter 5, verses 3 to 5. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us. So, dear viewers, if you got this far, thank you for watching. Kung nagustuhan niyo yung video, please give us a thumbs up. For comments on how we can improve or suggestions on what topics you'd like us to cover, please type them in the comment box below. We read all your comments. So see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.